a former UN General Assembly president, a Soviet defector, and a secret spy ring inside a major nation's government. You might call it a plot to a James Bond story. I call it the election of 1954. By 1954, the Korean War had come to an end in a stalemate which saw Korea remain divided along lines almost identical to those before the war. Meanwhile, back at home, Menzies' prospect of winning a third term in office was in doubt, as the economic boom that had come with Australia's post-war reconstruction was over, and the economy was beginning to stagnate. If Menzies hoped to win, he would need to use every trick in the book. His first move would be to continue his attempts to crack down on communism in Australia. After his original communist ban was thrown out by the courts for its unconstitutionality, Menzies would attempt to ban the party via referendum. This referendum would not only be challenged by the Labour Party, it would also be challenged by several right-leaning organisations, such as the Young Liberals movement, due to its anti-democratic implications, as Menzies in effect would be removing a political party from running against him. Leading the campaign against the referendum would be the new leader of the Labour Party, Herbert Vere Evatt, although he was more commonly known as H.V. Evatt, or Doc Evatt. Evatt was a man with one extensive record. After serving in the New South Wales state government in the 1920s, he became the youngest appointed judge to the High Court, at 35, where he remained until 1940, where opposite to former Prime Minister Edmund Barton, he left the High Court to join federal politics, and ironically won the seat of Barton, named in honour of our first Prime Minister. In federal politics, Evatt would play an instrumental role in Curtin's wartime government, and played a huge role in the establishment of the United Nations. In 1948, he achieved the prestigious position of President of the United Nations General Assembly, a position often joked as being President of the world. As President, Evatt would play a prominent role in the establishment of the State of Israel, a motion he would call a great victory for the UN. Wonder how that worked out today? After his term at the UN expired, Evatt would return to federal politics, where after surviving two narrow election wins against war hero Nancy Wake, he would be elected unopposed as leader of the Labour Party in the wake of Chifley's death. Evatt would successfully convince Australia to vote against the communist ban, leading to the referendum's narrow loss of 49.44% to 50.56% yes-no result. He did this despite several members of his party believing it was a bad idea to oppose the referendum, claiming it was both bad politics and policy, as communists were still highly active in both unions and the Labour Party itself. However, most of Evatt's critics would not openly criticise his decision. Despite his controversial opposition to banning the unpopular Communist Party, Evatt looked on track to beat Menzies in the upcoming 1954 election. This was until a certain Soviet diplomat got involved. In 1953, Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin died, and with his death came a series of purges of several of his close allies. One of these men was Secretary-Chief Lavrenti Beria. Beria's execution came as great concern to Vladimir Petrov, a close ally of Beria, stationed in the Soviet embassy in Canberra. Fearing for his own life, Petrov decided to defect from the USSR and request political asylum in Australia. In return for his defection, Petrov would provide evidence of a large Soviet espionage operation occurring in Australia. Menzies would accept Petrov's offer, and with the help of ASIO, he would defect on the 3rd of April 1954. After a few complications, including Petrov's wife almost being taken back to the USSR, Petrov would hand over documents revealing an extensive Soviet spy ring in Australia, with members in multiple areas of governance, including two of Labour leader Evatt's staff members. This revelation sent shockwaves through the Labour Party and caused Evatt to take a major role in the following Royal Commission. Using his experience as a High Court judge, he took the role of attorney for his fellow accused staff members. Evatt delivered very harsh cross-examinations of the ASIO members involved in the accusations, a move that would see his ability in the hearings to make further statements revoked, on grounds he was representing his own political interest over that of his clients. Evatt, however, saw his silencing as a form of judicial bias in favour of the Menzies government. And with the Royal Commission into the spy ring still going on, the election would be set for the 29th of May, 1954. This election would also be the first election since 1929 in which no Senate elections took place. This was due to the Senate calendar and the election calendar falling out of sync with each other. And the winner was... What might be one of the most controversial results, Menzies won with 64 seats, despite losing the two-party preferred at 49.3%. This was the second time, the first being the 1940 election, that the party that lost the two-party preferred vote won the election. Evatt had only gained 5 seats, to now hold 57, still 4 seats short of a majority. Evatt was furious with the result of this election and accused Menzies of foul play, claiming that he had arranged the defection of Petrov to occur right before the election to benefit the Liberal Party's chances in an election they had been predicted to lose. Despite the loss, Evatt would soon have a second chance to win government, as due to the calendar issues between the House and Senate, a new election would be required the very next year to bring the two houses back in sync. Come back next time for the election of 1955.